Everyone thinks they understand money until money starts controlling them. Many think the problem lies in their salary, the wrong investment, or even the government. But the truth is much more uncomfortable. What truly separates you from financial freedom isn't how much you earn, but how much you understand yourself. Money has never been just about math. It's always been about behavior. It reveals your insecurities, your comparisons, and even your deepest illusions. That's why so many intelligent people remain broke. They try to solve an emotional problem with spreadsheets, and then they try to solve a spreadsheet with emotion. Have you noticed that even when you earn more, you seem to stay in the same place? This video isn't going to teach you how to get rich overnight. It's going to show you why you haven't achieved it yet and how to break that silent cycle that traps millions: comparison, fear, and the eternal quest for just a little more. Because understanding money is understanding yourself. And when you change your mindset, money changes its place. First, the illusion of control. Have you noticed that in times of crisis, even the most rational person makes irrational decisions? When the market crashes, instinct screams louder than any plan. The investor who claimed to have a moderate profile discovers they can't stand seeing their balance in the red. The middle class who promised to save ends up spending just to relieve stress. The human mind seeks emotional security, not mathematical precision. That's why numbers can deceive, but behavior never lies. Think about it calmly. How many of your financial decisions were born from emotion and not from strategy? The first step isn't planning, it's observing yourself. Before investing, understand your mental triggers. Before spending, identify the void you're trying to fill. Because money is a mirror. It doesn't show what you have. It shows who you are when you lose it. True freedom begins when you accept that you can't control the market, only your reactions to it. And this is where the myth of financial intelligence comes in, a silent trap that many don't see, believing that knowing a lot is the same as doing the right thing. Intelligence can teach you formulas, but it doesn't save you from impulsiveness. Many lose fortunes not through ignorance, but through arrogance. They think that understanding the system makes them immune to mistakes, and right there, ego takes the wheel. Knowledge without self-control is fuel for disastrous decisions. The brain is a brilliant engineer, but the heart is the saboteur that cuts the wires at midnight. Even the geniuses of Wall Street fell for this myth. In 2008, brilliant minds, trained at the best universities, went bankrupt because they thought they were smarter than the market. They confused luck with skill and risk with opportunity. And the same thing happens in everyday life. The more a person thinks they understand finance, the more convinced they become that they can predict the unpredictable. But money doesn't reward those who make accurate predictions. It rewards those who survive their mistakes. True financial wisdom isn't about mastering charts, but about mastering your own ego. Recognizing that making mistakes is part of the game, and that humility offers more protection than any formula. The mature investor doesn't seek to be right. They seek to stay in the game long enough to reap the rewards. Because intelligence isn't about predicting the future, it's about resisting yourself when the future arrives. And here something invisible appears, the hidden game we all play. Almost no one perceives it, but money is a game. And each person is playing a completely different one. Some seek stability, others freedom. Some want to prove their worth, others just want to sleep peacefully. The problem is that everyone is looking at their neighbor as if they were all in the same game. You see someone buying a new car and feel like you're falling behind, without noticing that they're playing for status, and you might be trying to play it safe. That's where the confusion begins, when we compare different playing fields and try to win by rules that aren't our own. Social media has turned this invisible game into a public spectacle. A long-term investor compares themselves to a trader who lives off daily risk. A parent tries to copy the routine of an influencer with no responsibilities. And the most dangerous thing, everyone seems to be winning, but no one shows the price they're paying for it. It's like looking at a giant chessboard, where the pieces are moving in opposite directions. And you, distracted, end up playing someone else's game without realizing it. Think about it. How many of your decisions were born from comparison and not from conviction? Financial maturity begins when you define your own playing field and learn to ignore the rest. When you understand that losing at someone else's game is the first step to winning at your own. Because whoever tries to win on every board loses on every board. Wealth isn't about defeating all the players. It's about choosing a game you can keep playing for decades. But something sabotages that quiet progress, the prison of comparison. You go in believing you'll be motivated, and you come out drained, frustrated, with the feeling that it's never enough. In the financial world, that prison is even crueler. While you try to reach the standard you saw in someone else, you waste time, energy, and money, competing with an illusion. Society convinced you that wealth is a race, but no one told you that the finish line moves every time you get closer. That's why so many live exhausted. They run for approval, not for purpose. You work more, you earn more, but you still feel like you're playing catch up. There's always someone with a bigger house, a better investment, a freer life. The algorithm reinforces the poison, showing others' success as if it were your own reflection. And when you measure yourself against that yardstick, any achievement seems too small. Comparison turns progress into anxiety and money into a symbol of guilt. Because it's not a lack of money, it's an excess of mirrors. Now think, how many financial decisions have you made just to prove something to someone? True freedom begins when you define your destination. When you stop climbing by reflex and understand that the summit isn't where others are, but where your mind finds peace. Wealth isn't about defeating others. It's about no longer needing to defeat them. And whoever understands this leaves the stage and chooses the backstage. But there's a detail that few notice: the theater of appearances. We live in a world that rewards spectacle. Appearance has become a currency, and many trade freedom for applause. Buying the latest car, posting about the trip, showing off the watch. It all seems like success, but in reality, it's a well-rehearsed performance. The problem is that the audience applauds, and you end up believing in the character you created. Only behind the scenes, the actor is tired, in debt, and a prisoner of their own image. Society taught you to appear prosperous, but never to be free. And the price of that performance is high: your peace. Most people don't spend to live better, they spend to be seen. They buy status and sell tranquility. That's why so many well-off families live on the brink of chaos. Every raise becomes a new social obligation, and the cycle never ends. Because applause is addictive. The more you show, the more you need to show. It's like a shiny display case that hides an empty safe. Few notice that people don't admire you. They're just projecting onto you. And the more you seek approval, the further you stray from your own authenticity. Now think, how many of your purchases were made to be noticed and not to be happy? True wealth is what you haven't yet shown. It's the silence of someone who has already understood that external validation is the most expensive form of poverty. When you exchange the spotlight for peace, luxury loses its luster and simplicity gains value. But the mind is never satisfied. That's where the just a little more trap appears. At first, it doesn't seem dangerous. You achieve something, feel satisfaction for a moment, and then the brain whispers, just a little more is needed. That cycle is the invisible engine of financial dissatisfaction, because there is never a destination. Those who live waiting for the next raise, the next investment, the next step, end up trapped on an endless ladder where each rung erases the previous one. The mind confuses progress with purpose, and that's why many accumulate possessions, but never feel peace. The world feeds this feeling of constant scarcity. Companies, advertisements, and social media were designed to make you believe that it's still not enough. Even those who have already achieved financial freedom can still feel lacking, because the emptiness isn't in the bank account, it's in the mind. It's the same pattern as someone who eats when they're not hungry or buys when they don't need to. A reflection of anxiety disguised as ambition. Now think, how many times have you sought just a little more and ended up back where you started? True financial peace begins when you define what is enough. When you understand that freedom doesn't come from having everything, but from meeting little. Those who don't set limits live in survival mode, even surrounded by abundance. Wealth isn't about attaining, but about possessing. But there's something almost no one understands. Everything comes at an invisible price, and few are willing to pay it. The invisible price of progress. Every advance comes at a cost, but most prefer to believe that you can grow without paying the bill. The problem is that financial progress exacts invisible interest, time, patience, and above all, discomfort. The market, work, and even relationships require you to learn to tolerate uncertainty in order to reap stability later. And the paragraph is cruel. Those who try to avoid all pain often end up living in constant pain, a cruel paradox of life. True optimism isn't blindness. It's the courage to prepare, even when facing uncertainty. Learning to manage fear is the crucial step that separates mere survivors from those who are truly free. Fear will always be present. The difference lies in the power you allow it to hold over you. The wealthy are not reckless. They are disciplined enough to act even when alarm bells are ringing. They understand that true progress is often silent, while panic is loud and distracting. Those who listen to the silence eventually grasp the profound power of saving for no specific reason. Saving is more than a financial decision. It's a powerful exercise in personal freedom. Saving money without a specific goal might seem pointless to many, but it precisely creates options. When you have savings, you gain the ability to decline undesirable jobs, deals, or situations. Having money saved is essentially buying time, and time is undeniably the most valuable asset one possesses. Many mistakenly believe saving is losing, when in reality, it empowers you to say no when others say yes. People often expect a reason to save, like a trip, a car, or a house, for their financial efforts. However, the most powerful savings are those accumulated without any specific, predefined purpose. These savings act as an invisible cushion, protecting you from unforeseen events and opening unexpected doors. Many great fortunes began with someone saving more than they needed without knowing why. That silent reserve transforms mere chance into tangible opportunity. Consider this. What if your next big opportunity simply depended on having waited a little longer? Saving is more about your identity than your income. It's choosing to need less, not chasing more. Economics often exists in the space between your ego and your income. The smaller your ego, the greater your freedom becomes. Those who live on the edge find that the limit dictates their decisions, not their own will. Saving grants you the ability to breathe deeply before making any significant action. True freedom isn't about buying everything you desire. It's about not needing to buy anything to feel complete. Most people spend their lives accumulating, believing that one day, with enough, they will finally rest. However, those who truly understand the game of money realize that the pinnacle is control, not hoarding. The watch becomes the new status symbol, not for its price, but for the autonomy to decide your life's pace. The truly rich person isn't one who can buy everything, but one who can say no to almost everything. Financial freedom isn't about quitting work, but about choosing why and with whom you work. It's waking up weightless, planning without fear, and living with a profound sense of purpose. Money then ceases to be an end in itself and transforms into the fuel for the life you genuinely desire. Peace arrives when you stop measuring success by material things and start measuring it by time. Free time becomes the ultimate luxury, the kind that is felt in silence, not just seen in photos. Consider this. If you stopped running today, what would truly remain of your life? Wealth is when time works for you, rather than the other way around. It's discovering that your constant running was never due to a lack of money, but the fear of stopping. The game concludes when you understand that freedom isn't living without limits, but living within your own limits with awareness and peace. And whoever grasps this truth finally breaks free from the system. Few understand it, but those who do begin to live truly freely. Ultimately, it's not about spreadsheets, charts, or complex strategies. It's fundamentally about awareness. You can study investments and follow all advice, but if you react with fear, pride, or comparison, the result remains the same. The mind is the true battleground of finance. As long as you don't master your emotions, money will continue to control you, silently, every day. Now is the time to look inward and ask yourself, what does money truly mean to me? Is it security, status, power, or perhaps peace? The answers you provide to these questions will define your next few years. Money is merely a mirror. It reflects what you feel, not just what you know. That's why true wealth begins in the unseen, in what you choose to believe, change, and sustain, even when no one is watching. So, before seeking new formulas, learn to listen to your own behavior. Start small, quietly, and focus, because true power isn't about appearing rich, it's about living free. Wealth is silence, and silence speaks volumes to those who have learned to listen. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone still trapped by the illusion of control. Because when you understand the psychology of money, you discover that true freedom isn't about winning, it's about remaining free. Warm regards, and God bless you. Almost no one wants to pay the entrance fee. They desire the return, the fruits, the freedom, but they shy away from the emotional cost. This distinction precisely separates those who build wealth from those who constantly chase shortcuts. The impatient investor sells at the first sign of trouble, while the talented professional quits when recognition is slow. Similarly, the small saver breaks their habit when quick results aren't immediately visible. It's a recurring pattern. They perceive the price as punishment, when in reality, it's merely the ticket to entry. Consequently, few ascend to the hill of tranquility, not due to a lack of intelligence, but a deficit of resilience. Consider this. How many opportunities have you forfeited by demanding the outcome before engaging in the process? Those who grasp the cost of progress learn to value the waiting period, understanding that each day of patience is an invisible investment. Wealth isn't awarded to the swiftest, but to the one who perseveres through challenges. Time rewards those who can endure tedium and ultimately destroys those who constantly crave excitement. However, a crucial detail often goes unnoticed. Even the most robust strategy falters if it lacks the flexibility to handle the unforeseen. The illusion of a perfect plan is just that. Money doesn't adhere to scripts, it tests your adaptability. Every plan appears flawless until life intervenes with a layoff, a crisis, or a shift in market sentiment. True security, therefore, resides not in control, but in inherent flexibility. The astute investor doesn't attempt to predict every move. Instead, they build margins to withstand the unpredictable. Ultimately, the winner isn't defined by getting everything right, but by persevering even when circumstances go awry. A good plan isn't the most aesthetically pleasing on paper, but the most sustainable in practical application. Many abandon their efforts midway, mistaking mistakes for outright failure. However, making mistakes is an intrinsic part of the game. It's the cost of participation. Great investors understand this, preferring a simple, disciplined plan over a brilliant strategy abandoned at the first setback. This distinction marks the difference between those who flourish and those who constantly find themselves restarting. Reflect. How often have you initiated anew simply because your plan didn't unfold as anticipated? Financial maturity dawns when you accept that control is an illusion, and being right is futile without the patience to await the outcome. Wealth is about adapting to the tides, not futilely battling the wind. Those who grasp this begin to perceive time not as an adversary, but as a powerful ally. For it is time, and only time, that transforms consistent effort into true freedom. Yet, there's an undervalued aspect, the profound power of silent time. It stands as history's greatest multiplier, simultaneously the most underestimated force. Everyone craves immediate results, but genuine wealth only blossoms in silence. It's akin to planting a tree. You water it daily, and for months, nothing appears to happen. Then, one day, the invisible becomes strikingly evident. Most individuals give up before this stage, confusing slowness with failure. However, time itself doesn't fail. It simply becomes consistently present. Those who grasp this realize the secret isn't in accelerating, but in unwavering perseverance. The world's greatest fortunes were amassed this way, incrementally, interest upon interest, year after year. While some seek shortcuts, others meticulously build solid foundations. This is why the wealthy often appear lucky. They simply endured long enough for chance to favor them. Morgan Housel terms this the power of permanence. Repeating sound financial habits for decades far outweighs a single stroke of luck. Now consider, how many times have you sabotaged your own future due to impatience? Silent time acts as the fairest judge in the financial realm, rewarding those who respect natural rhythms and punishing those who rush the inevitable. Success isn't about winning quickly. It's about enduring long enough to harvest what was already destined for you. But there's another subtle detail almost universally overlooked. Even the best strategy crumbles without the flexibility to adapt. Fear. It's one of the loudest sounds in the financial world, dominating headlines, crashing markets, and paralyzing decisions. Bad news often sounds intelligent, while optimism frequently appears naive. This leads many to overprotect themselves, ultimately causing them to fall behind. Fear convinces the investor to sell during a downturn, the entrepreneur to abandon their venture, and the worker to settle for less. It's the incessant drone of a mental siren, an alarm constantly blaring. Amidst this cacophony, the music of progress playing softly in the background goes unheard. Media and social networks have long understood that fear sells. It captures attention, generates clicks, and fosters emotional dependence. The constant noise, however, obliterates clarity, preventing you from seeing opportunities because you're too preoccupied with evading risks.